So, someone asked me my opinion on the American Renaissance Party. To me, it really does seem just like another, um, almost like a proto ANP, a proto Rockwell Party, but more so geared toward the core values of National Socialism, whereas Rockwell kind of uh, basically borrowed the trappings of National Socialism and superimposed that onto right wing Americanism to a large extent. Now, a couple problems I have with organizations like this. Uh, Now, from what I found out from Wikipedia, mind you, I just started reading about this organization. I'm not an expert in it. It was defunct in the 80s. It started in 1949. They had basically they had connections to the UKA, the United Clans of America, which was actually run by a Jewish gentleman that ended up killing himself when his ethnicity was found out. One of the problems, I think that this is one of the reasons I believe that justicialism is a far better fit for Americanism than is, um, National Socialism or any type of racially based system. In the United States, despite what people might think, there's two reasons for this, but a race-based politic will not win. And I'm going to get into talking in this because I wanted to make a video on RealPolitik. A lot of people ask me my opinion on this or that, or can I do a comparison of fascism to communism and this and that. What matters is reality. A lot of people may remember, I grew up as a LaVeyan Satanist. My father was a LaVeyan Satanist. When I became a teenager, I began to, well, actually, when I was still a youth, I began reading the works of Aleister Crowley, and I considered myself a Thelemite. And then I realized I was more of a LaVeyan Satanist, and then I started reading the core teachings of the people that were the influencers of Satanism. Like Ayn Rand. I still consider myself philosophically to be an objectivist. I try to see things objectively. I think Ayn Rand had a whole bunch of inconsistencies that are not consistent with objectivism. A lot of her views are against her own ideology, but being a true objectivist, you can disagree with the founder of objectivism, for Ayn Rand is not the Messiah, and that's what a lot of people forget. But also, let's think about the people like Sun Tzu and Niccolo Machiavelli. Niccolo Machiavelli is really important in the sense that he was the one that determined that you can't base your politics like the ancient Greeks did in idealism. Idealism will get you nowhere, at least not by itself. You need reality. You need to base your politics in reality, regardless of how unpleasant that might seem or how out of sync with your core morality it might be. But I don't really sync that much to RealPolitik, which is a German term, which means real politics, of course. But I don't sync that much with that as much as I said, I consider myself philosophically an objectivist. Now, in objectivism, there is that romanticism, the embrace of the romanticism, okay? And I believe in going beyond the virtue of selfishness, as Ayn Rand would call it, because selfishness, see, this is the thing, the collective serves the self, and the self serves the collective. So when you start really examining the reality of social systems and things like that, the only way you can accept the virtue of selfishness is to accept the need for the collective and the collective's need for the individual. So you have to actually look at what Ayn Rand said and then dissect it, because she's wrong about her own stuff. Doesn't make her ideas wrong. It makes what she's espousing wrong based on her own warped, limited perception. But remember, she's not a god. You can disagree with her, which is what too many people that worship her forget. So you have to understand that what you want is, you want politics that are based in reality but anchored in idealism. But you don't want the idealism to pull you out of reality. So when people ask me, can I compare fascism to communism? Of course I can. But the ideology is where people are, everybody likes to think ideologically. That's not what matters. It does, but that's not really what matters. Let me explain. Essentially, Mussolini fascism and Stalinist communism are virtually the same thing. Of course, there are benefits to Mussolini fascism not present in Leninist or Stalinist communism. However, for the most part, these things are implemented in very similar fashions. That's where they're similar. The ideology doesn't matter. The overbearing leftist ideology in Soviet communism, which did not function, mind you, okay, such as Lysenkoism. Lysenkoism can't work because it's not based in reality. If you don't base your system in reality, it will falter. And that's exactly what happened to Lysenkoism. The geneticists and biologists of the Soviet Union rose up against the Lysenkoist nonsense and began stating, no, we have to teach Morganism, we have to teach Mendelism, we have to teach true Darwinism. We can't teach this happy horse crap of Lysenkoism because it's not real. You cannot run animal husbandry or anything like this off of a false dictum that states that environment is all that matters, and that genetics do not exist, and that there are no genetic differences, and that race is imaginary, and that everything's imaginary that has to do with heredity, and that intelligence isn't hereditable. Okay, you can't function like that. So the scientists had a mutiny, essentially. There was a scientific mutiny that demanded the teaching of Morganism and Mendelism and Darwinism in the Soviet Union. And that's what happens. You can't be that out of whack from reality. And this is why the radical left will ultimately fail. Even if they win, they will fail. Okay? And what do I mean by that? Let's assume that the radical left in the United States wins and gains power and runs the country. You can't operate the radical left without a stable country to protect them from themselves. What do I mean by that? People that don't recognize the failings of libertarianism will come to realize quite quickly, if you remove the order in society, remember in objectivism, what's the only role of government according to Ayn Rand? Now, I don't agree with this, but the only role of government, according to Ayn Rand, was to protect intellectual properties and to use force to protect others from force. She was very much against the use of force, and she believed that the mind was what mattered, okay? So she saw the world, these dictatorial systems, to be run by the mastermind who used the brute to control the masses. The radical left has no mastermind. As I've talked about before in the difference between cultural Marxism and Marxism, or cultural Marxism and Soviet communism, the Soviet Union was the mastermind. There is no Soviet Union. So you have the brute, as Ayn Rand would call it, which is cultural Marxism, with no mastermind. Well, you have mind, you don't have mastermind. And what happens is you take away ordered society and the left will eat itself. They will turn on each other and begin to kill each other in the anarchy, and human civilization will degenerate, assuming the radical left wins. They won't win, but let's assume they did win. That's what would happen. And then society would have to evolve back out of the primordial ooze that was created by the radical left. So I guess what I'm saying is you will always see these race-based political systems in the United States fail, because the United States was never a unified race of people. It never was. Even when it was 100% Caucasian, when it was 100% white, you still had Germans and English and Dutch and Swiss and Mennonites and Puritans and Quakers. The idea, e pluribus unum, matters a lot in the United States. So that's why you can't have the singular group in the United States dictating that this is how things must be run. It will never pass the smell test of the American people. So you will never see something like the American Nazi Party, like George Lincoln Rockwell's party. You won't see that be a success. Okay, it will not succeed. You might see it as a minor party, and that's the thing, is I don't understand why these parties don't start exploring local politics where they may actually have some success. So what my point is as a national party, as a party of the presidency, as a party of anything big, no. I don't see the National Renaissance Party, which is now defunct, but I don't see any of these race-based parties ever making anything out of themselves. With things like Joe Biden, when I'm talking about Joe Biden, how he recently cracked down on BLM and Antifa, it's in the wording of how he worded that bill, in the sense that you're cracking down on anti-capitalists. Why would he say violent anti-capitalists? Well, because that allows you to crack down on BLM and Antifa without saying I'm cracking down on BLM and Antifa. You have to keep the support of your base, even if your base is who you have to get out of the way because they're destroying your country. Biden is far more Machiavellian than Donald Trump. Or I should rephrase that. Biden is far more intellectually competent than Donald Trump, and he's far more skilled at statecraft than Donald Trump. Donald Trump's like a bull in a china shop, okay? But he knows what he's saying. Donald Trump knew how to sing sweet music to the American people's ears. I think Curtis Sliwa, the guy that's running for mayor, the founder of the Guardian Angels, I think he put it best about Donald Trump. I'm going to cut the video here. I'll expand on this in later videos, but the ultimate truth is that if you want a successful nationalist party in the United States, it cannot be race-based. If you want a successful nationalist party in the United States, it can't be right-wing. It can't be left-wing either, but it has a better chance of succeeding left-wing than it does right-wing. And there are left-wing nationalists. The point is, I say that it needs to be right down the middle if you want it to succeed. And people will go, well, you can't do that. You're screwing your ideology. Ideology is important on the individual basis. And on how that can spread to the group. And I'll get into that more in later videos. But that's all for this video. I'll leave links in the description, but most of this video was opinion, so the links are just supportive of the opinion, but not necessarily have anything to do with the video. And that's all.